Hey everybody, what's up? Fred McKinnon here with eComCatalyst. I want to answer today one of the questions that I've seen everywhere, and it's kind of the big news right now, and I'm seeing it on YouTube, I'm seeing it out in social events, I'm seeing it on Reddit, I'm seeing it on all the Facebook groups, and it's all of this doom and gloom about Amazon, the Amazon business model, and whether or not Amazon's dead. I've seen clickbait like you wouldn't imagine, the death of Amazon FBA, why I'm quitting Amazon FBA. FBA is no longer a viable business method, blah, 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 blah. So I want to answer the big question that everybody's asking. Is it still worth it to sell on Amazon in 2024? All right, look, let's get real here for a minute. There's been a lot of buzz. A whole lot of buzz recently, especially this year, okay, about all the increased fees, tons of additional fees that Amazon has brought on, okay? The competition is more fierce than ever, especially from overseas, notably China, and rising advertising costs have caused many sellers to just give up, to wave the white flag, surrender. It's not worth it anymore. Now, here's the truth of the matter. Is it worth it to sell on Amazon 2024? My response to that, as a veteran seller of over 20 years with over $100 million of revenue under my belt, is, well, it depends. That's not the answer you want, right? But I want to get into it on this video, and I want to go over a lot of things that will give you my professional opinion, all right? Now, I want to back up and introduce myself again. My name's Fred McKinnon. I'm the owner of eComCatalyst. So not only am I a seller, still a very active seller, a 7+ figure seller of my own brands and products on Amazon and other third-party marketplaces. But in addition to that, we operate eComCatalyst, which is a Amazon and e-commerce marketing agency to help brand owners who have physical products to sell to succeed in their e-commerce business. We do everything from running your entire channel to one-on-one consulting, SEO listing optimizations, managing your PPC, handling your logistics, your FBA shipments, just about everything that you can think of when it comes to operating an Amazon and e-commerce business. So I've seen a thing or two in 20 years and feel like I'm qualified to help answer this question. And I will say that I do believe that the season we're in right now, 2024, is definitely one of the hardest seasons to be an Amazon seller, especially if you are selling your own private label goods and you're kind of a mid-brand or small brand or a boutique brand. You're not part of a big national or regional brand. It is harder because of the competition and because of the increased fees. Margins are lower. There's no way around that. But is this still a viable business? I said earlier, it depends, but it depends on what you want. It depends on how you want to proceed, okay? My answer to that would be yes. Very much, it's still a viable business, but it's going to require some pivots, all right? Now, let's go back. Let's go back and just talk about Amazon for a moment. We're not talking about a marketplace that's just in decline. I mean, think about eBay. At one point, eBay was the king of e-commerce. Everyone was selling on eBay, and to be a rock star eBay seller was a huge deal, right? I mean, that was where everything was. And now eBay's almost like an afterthought to a lot of sellers. Now, don't get offended, eBay, and don't get offended if you are that rock star eBay seller, because there's lots of money being made on eBay. But when you go up to somebody at a party and you say, I have an e-commerce business, or I sell on, you usually expect to hear I sell on Amazon, not so much I sell on eBay. You don't think of building a brand on eBay like you do on a platform like Amazon, okay? But so my point is, Amazon's just not like a marketplace in decline where it's just getting worse and worse. I mean, last number, these numbers are staggering, okay? Let's talk about numbers, because numbers don't lie. We're talking about a company that in 2023 was pushing $575 billion with a B, $575 billion in revenue. Over 140 billion of that was third-party sellers. In other words, sold by some third-party seller and then shipped by Amazon or shipped by the seller. So we're not talking about the products that Amazon themselves is selling as a retailer. We're talking about the third-party platform where people like I exist, people like you exist, the people that we help scale and build their e-commerce channels. where they exist, okay? Over $140 billion was made. That's a staggering figure, and that number has gone up year after year after year, not down, okay? So is that opportunity declining? No, it is not declining at all. I mean, Amazon's commanding nearly a 40% market share in the world of e-commerce, all right? Outstripping every other platform. Now, could that change? Absolutely, yes. We're seeing Walmart begin to come in and take a bite of that, right? And now we've got all these other platforms like SHEIN and TEMU and TikTok Shop and things like this. Shopify as a direct-to-consumer platform is exploding, right? I don't like to compare Shopify because it's not a marketplace so much. That's a direct-to-consumer, that's a software service. Shopify is a software service providing a shopping platform per brand, but still, they're doing amazing business, and a lot of people are buying directly from brand owners on their Shopify store now instead of Amazon. So we'll see what happens with that market share, but the point is, these are staggering numbers of a giant in the industry that, in my opinion, you want to be a partner with. Now, one of the biggest things we talk about right now is the competition. It's become a lot more competitive to sell on Amazon. And yes, that's true. All right. Particularly from China, that number of sellers have increased like crazy. I mean, let's talk about China. According to Marketplace Pulse, over 50% of the top 10,000 sellers on Amazon are Chinese sellers. In most of those cases, they're actually Chinese manufacturers. All right. When the manufacturer is also the retailer and they seem to be completely immune from the tax, import, and duty laws that we have to pay here in the United States, you're going to have a hard time competing with that. Competition is real. The competition from China is real. Okay. We can't minimize that at all. But at the same time, they make up a huge part of the third-party sellers, but still nearly 60% of all the sales that Amazon has comes from third-party sellers. Some people think that Amazon's trying to squeeze out the third-party seller. And based on their actions this year alone, with the incredible fee increases that they announced earlier in the spring and throughout the year, and it seems like about every week they roll out some new gotcha fee where they're going to grab a little more of our money, grab a little more of our margin. You would almost wonder that. But when over 60% of their online sales revenue comes from third-party sellers, I don't think so. There's a, there's a saying that we have, don't bite the hand that feeds you. And in that case, Amazon will be biting the hand that feeds them. Now, what I do think Amazon is doing is milking that, manipulating, leveraging that, and trying to eke out as much profit from us, third-party sellers, as possible. But here's the bottom line, okay? And I want you to get this. This is important. Over 2 million small, medium-sized businesses are thriving on Amazon. These are people just like you, people just like me, who've learned to navigate the challenges and leverage Amazon's enormous customer base to their, customer base. Let's talk about the customer base, all right? Amazon never tells us exactly how many Amazon Prime customers they have, but the best we can tell, it's somewhere between 180 and 2 million members worldwide. That is customers who have paid a fee to be able to access Amazon.com, buy and get products quickly through Amazon Prime shipping. You have the most ready to spend customer ever on the platform at Amazon.com. So yes, selling on Amazon is way more challenging than it used to be. Back in the day, we didn't have inventory placement fees. If you don't know what an inventory placement fee is, see some of my videos from around April of this year. I talk a lot about that. They're some of the most watched videos on this channel. We didn't have inventory placement fees. We didn't have to deal with Amazon optimized shipments, where sometimes we're 5-6x more expensive now to inbound products to Amazon. A year ago, we didn't have low inventory level fees that we had to deal with, okay? Over the last few years, it's gone from 1 or 2 paid sponsored ad positions on Amazon's main page to all of them above the fold. In the old days, when you would search for a product, when you would get the search results, the first 1 or 2 positions maybe were a paid sponsored position. When I use the word sponsored, I'm referring to a paid ad. All right. So for your product to show up there, you have to pay for for that placement. That's part of Amazon advertising, which is yet another source of their hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue. All right. Well, what I'm saying is a couple of years ago, there were 1 or 2 spots, but now when you search for black sneakers and you hit enter, the whole top part is paid. The banner at the top is a sponsored ad. There's video ads. It's become pay to play, which makes it much more expensive. So many things like this have changed. It's gotten harder. That's just the honest truth. But I think if you are willing to adapt and pivot and make changes where changes are necessary, Amazon is still the best platform in the world to be selling your products, selling profitably, and making a great living. I want to talk just for a second about that word pivot. Any business has opportunities where they need to pivot. Think about Blockbuster. Remember Blockbuster? Our movie gallery. You remember, I'm 54 years old. I tapped my little black thing. If you're watching this, you wonder, what is this? This is an arm sling. I'm in an arm sling because I just had rotator cuff surgery last week. So this isn't a fashion statement. It's just something I actually have to do. So anyway, back to my story. You remember the old video stores? I'm 54 years old. So that's what we did. We would go to the Blockbuster, to the movie gallery, the video warehouse, and on the weekend, and all the VHS, movie tapes were on the shelves, and you wanted to get there early enough because if you wanted to watch Indiana Jones, man, you had to get there before the 3 copies of it they had were gone. And you'd rent it and you would take it home and you would watch it, and then you'd forget to take it back to the store the next day, so they charge you twice. Well, then along comes streaming. Along comes downloading digital movies, and these brick and mortar firms that relied on doing this just all of a sudden, they went out of business, right? It didn't work for them anymore. And there's so many businesses like that pivoted. Personally, for me, when I started my business some 20 years ago, I started as a mass drop shipper. It wasn't always mass. By mass, I mean I had like 1 million listings, 500,000 active listings on Amazon and other third-party marketplaces. I have a video here on my channel that tells you all about that history and how I spent $99 to get access to a drop ship directory. And that drop ship directory gave me access to a whole bunch of manufacturers and distributors who would drop ship their products for you. I hooked those up to Amazon and began a business where it was completely hands off. I sold products I did not have physical inventory of, but I knew that my distributor did have the inventory. And as I sold it, I would route the order to the distributor. The distributor would drop ship that to the customer. I would get paid. Everybody's happy. There was markup in the middle. All right. That was a great business model for me. When I started doing that some 20 years ago, I can name off the top 3 or 4 other sellers who were doing what I was doing. We were some of the top biggest sellers, okay? There was no social media. There was no Facebook. There was no anything like this. So we kind of really had cornered something. But as social media grew, it was birthed, people began to do videos, teach other people. People began to blog about how to do it. And over time, drop shipping, reselling and drop shipping these name brand products from big distributors became a business model that wasn't as viable. Did I still make money? Yes. Did I make the same amount of money? No. My profit was going down year after year after year after year after year. The margins were violent and I had to pivot. What do I mean by pivot? I had to make a change. I had to adapt. All right. And I started doing private labeling and I began to build my own brand with my own custom products that would set me apart a little bit. But even back then, I wasn't really setting myself apart at all. My first product that I created was a bamboo pizza paddle, a scraper that you get pizzas in and out of the oven with, right? On Alibaba, there's a bazillion Chinese manufacturers that can make a bamboo pizza board, all right? I made mine exactly like everybody else's. The only difference was my pretty little logo of my brand was laser burned, fire burned into the thing. That was the only difference. But back then, you could actually do that. You could launch, you could do some SEO and traffic techniques, get people to your listing and make really good money. And I did that, but then everyone started doing that. It seems like the gurus screw it up, right? We get on here and we make these YouTube videos that tell everybody how to do what we did when it worked. And then that drives it where everybody else is doing it doesn't work anymore. So I had to pivot, all right? And part of that pivot now is buying some other brands that I've bought that have some intellectual property protection. The last product that I launched, I have a patent on. So I have some intellectual property rights, IP rights that I can enforce to stop Chinese manufacturers, for example, from just knocking it off. There's something unique about it that brings value that sets me apart. Some of my most successful clients in my agency have products that are unique enough where they can't be duplicated from the competitors overseas. So yes, if you adapt, you can definitely win here, all right? Okay, hey, real quick, right here in the middle of this video, I just want to take a quick break and say that I've seen that like 70% of the people watching the videos here on YouTube on our channel aren't subscribers. What's up with that? 70%. It would mean the world to us if you would hit that subscribe button. It helps us. It helps YouTube. It lets them know, hey, this is content people actually care about. It won't take you but a second. Would you take a second right now in the middle of this video and just reach down and tap that subscribe button and then hit that little bell to be notified of when we release new videos? It means the world to us. It really helps our channel grow. Look forward to giving you even more of that content. Now let's get right back into what we're talking about. Now let's just talk about that. Diversification is important. If you want to stay on Amazon and you want to win in Amazon in 2024, you have to diversify, okay? You have to be thinking about the products that I just described, a product that sets you apart, a product that has a moat around it that protects it, some kind of intellectual property, some kind of copyright that can be enforced. That will help you win. Also, leverage brand registry. There are so many tools as a registered brand that give you access to enforce your brand's trademark or your brand's copyright. Without that, you can't get it. Now, you might ask the question, well, how do I get brand registry? Well, you need a trademark. You need a brand name, and you can make that up on the spot. My brand name, what's your name of your kids? Johnny's Widgets. That's my trademark. Assuming it hasn't been taken, do your due diligence, do your research, and for really cheap now, you can get a trademark. And once you get that trademark, you can register that brand with Amazon to get access to those features. Also, Amazon's giving you tools like they've never given you before. Now, they're taking more from you than they've ever taken before, but on the other side, they're giving back to you more than they've ever given back before when it comes to data, to advanced analytics. The analytics, the search term query reports, the brand analytics that they give us in Seller Central are second to none. They have lifted up the hood of the data behind what's going on Amazon. And if you can be a steward and learn how to manipulate and learn that data, that will set you apart. That's part of what we do at eComCatalyst for our clients. So if you need help with that, reach out. We understand search query reports. We understand brand analytics. We understand cart basket analysis and all of this data that's pretty intimidating if you don't know what you're doing and know how to apply that to make you win on Amazon. FBA, let's talk about FBA, Fulfilled by Amazon. That's the model most people use, right? You have your widgets, you send your widgets into an Amazon warehouse. When it sells, Amazon then ships it for you. Most cases at a fee that's much more winsome than if you were to do it yourself. Now, that's where the bulk of the fees have dramatically increased, okay? FBA, you could still win, but there's ways around all of these big increases, and they've given us AWD, Amazon Warehousing and Distribution. So you can use that, and it actually helps alleviate some of the fees, all right? So there's even ways around that. And then I'm seeing a surge of people who are returning back to what I call merchant fulfilled, which is they're not sending their products to FBA. They're keeping them in their garage. They're keeping them in their home. They're keeping them in their warehouse, and they're just fulfilling them themselves. And they're making this decision because they've said, even though the order volume may be less because they don't have the Prime badge, the reduction of order volume doesn't offset the increase in fees it takes them to utilize FBA. So that's also an option. But at the end of the day, there are other ways to do it. Most of these things we're talking about would be for brand owners, but there's almost never been a better time than now to get into reselling on Amazon, okay? I quit reselling on Amazon basically for years. I started drop shipping on Amazon. I never was really big into buying in inventory, in bulk and then reselling that. But what I'm seeing now is that there's huge opportunity. I can't overstate how big the opportunity is for reselling. One of my colleagues, Stephen Pope, if you know that name, Stephen Pope, he runs one of the largest Amazon agencies on the planet, myamazonguy.com. Stephen actually lives here in Georgia. Georgia, and we're colleagues and we're friends. We talk to one another frequently. He had his own brand, Age of Sage. And you know what? He actually got out of that. He sold out of that. And it was crazy. The naysayers were like, well, how can he run an agency if he can't even run his own brand? Don't get me started. I'll make a whole video about why people like me can run an agency and continue to run a brand, or maybe they don't run a brand as well, but they can teach better. There's a bazillion reasons behind that. So I'm not going to get into all the hate and the rhetoric that people throw in that direction. It's absolutely obscene. It's absolutely BS. It's crazy. Okay. All right. Rant over on that. My point is, Steven said, you know what? I'm going to start getting back into arbitrage. I'm going to start getting back into reselling. This guy is a wizard, okay? I mean, a complete wizard. And he's always going to have his hands in whatever is spinning. So he's been seeing amazing success. And it kind of got me like, hey, I used to do this. Let me do this. So even myself personally, I just recently went out to some of my old distributors that I used to drop ship through. And I downloaded their spreadsheet catalogs and I ran them through some software that I use to analyze the traffic and the sales rank and the sales potential of those things. And it took me like an hour to find a dozen or so products that I could start buying, sending into Amazon, listing profitably. And I'm just laughing right now, right? I'm laughing about these like $90 Panasonic cordless phones that I bought the other day that I'm selling for $179 on Amazon. Crazy margin. Now, am I selling tons of them? No, maybe 2 or 3 of those a day. But you're trying to get ahead. You're trying to get a business started. Boom, right there. You know, that gets it done. And why is that cool? Because A, I got no money tied up in capital. B, I got no money tied up in advertising because these are huge Panasonic, you know, everybody already looking for that model number. They're a big national brand. Don't need to advertise there. Right here, I want to interject the video that I released just a couple of weeks ago where I was debating with one of my other colleagues about why reselling is still a good thing. Because he was like, why would you ever be a reseller when you can be a private label guy and build your own legacy brand? I addressed that and I mentioned some of these very points. All right. At the end of the day, listen, everybody's going to cry. It's over. Everybody's going to cry. It can't be done. I heard just yesterday of a colleague who's quitting Amazon. It's like, I just don't want to give them any more money. They've just taken so many fees. They just it's not profitable anymore. Sorry to hear that. You know what? If it's not profitable, raise your price. And the world laughs, right? Insert huge laughter sound effect. Raise your price. If you're not profitable, what can it hurt? Raise your price. I have so many products in my own brands where my price is $10, $12, $13, $15 higher than almost the same product sold by the Chinese sellers or the low bottom feeder sellers. I'm still getting sales. I'm still making profit. I'm still paying the bills. It can be done. This is not over, all right? I started this video by saying, it depends. And the reason I say, is it worth it to sell on Amazon in 2024? It depends, is this. It depends. It depends on whether or not you want to be creative. It depends on whether or not you want to pivot. It depends on whether or not you're lazy. It depends on whether or not you're motivated to find something that sets you apart that you can defend. It depends on whether or not you want to work a little harder to build an asset that maybe you have to use some external leveraging to help. Because look, let me tell you, slapping your product on Amazon and hoping people will come buying it and tossing a little bit of money into the ad pot's not going to work anymore. You got to be bringing the customers. You got to be bringing the loyalty. You got to be making the videos. You got to be getting out on the social media channels and getting people excited about who you are and what you offer. Because if they're excited about who you are and what you offer and what your story is, they're going to buy your product, even if it's more expensive than the same product sold from the Chinese seller overseas. So I want to encourage you. Yes, it's still worth it to sell on Amazon in 2024. Do you need help? That's what we're here for. eComCatalyst.com. Reach out. You can get a free consult, watch these videos, try to help you, give as much free information as we can. And finally, I like to always end every video asking you, subscribe to our channel. This is a long one. If you're still with me, you're really engaged and you're really interested in this. Hit that subscribe button. I would be so grateful for that. Hit the bell to get notified, and we'll keep putting out content for you. Questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment. I try to personally respond to as many comments as I can. Thank you so much for watching.